Hello everyone, and welcome back to Blue Wizard Reviews, where we look at book-based movies and critique the deviations they make from the source. We're continuing with the Harry Potter series today, with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I've always really liked this book. Probably my favorite out of the series. It opened up a whole new dimension, giving us a glimpse into the worldwide wizarding community, new spells and creatures, so obviously the movie has a lot to uphold. And how does it do? Meh. Yes, we've gone back to square one. Just like the first two movies, The Goblet of Fire is an okay story, with no real major changes to the plot, at least not to an outsider's point of view. But here's the difference that I see between Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets and The Goblet of Fire. Whereas the first two did their very best to stick as close to the actual words of the book as possible, Goblet of Fire is very much a Hollywood story. That is to say, ratings are first and foremost in the producers' minds. If there are parts of the story that are too slow or could be embellished, these cuts and additions are taken. Horribly taboo to all of us hardcore fans, but really inconsequential to anybody else. So, let's dive right into it and bring the fury of the fandom against the might of capitalistic Hollywood. The first and most troubling to me is the lack of Dobby. This little ethical dilemma that Rowling worked into her books becomes more intriguing to me the older I get. Simply put, is it ethical or morally correct to allow the enslavement and or subjugation of a race of people, in this case an entire species, if the majority of that race are comfortable with their situation? The best real-life connection that I can make is domestic abuse. Most partners, mainly women, facing abuse from a spouse, partner, or lover really actually don't view themselves as victims, and therefore reject what they see as outside interference on a private matter. And the movie could have gone a long way in making people open their eyes and actually think about this issue, instead of just brushing it under the rug as society has done time and time again. I will admit, though, the writers were smart in the way that they wrote Dobby out of the movie, giving his only other function of providing gillyweed to Neville. Now, normally when I point out a deletion like this in the movies, I kindly provide a way the scriptwriters could have replaced it with something else. In this case, it seems fairly clear that the dragon scene went on for a mite too long. In the book, you get the image of a well-trained and talented athlete actually using the skills he's learned to solve a non-sports problem. Harry flies smart, and Rowling does a terrific job in describing that process. In the movie, there's smart flying as well, but it's obviously ramped up to be much flashier than in the book. And where the heck are the caretakers for these dragons? I mean, this thing just breaks his chain and goes flying off into the stands. Great job, guys. Now, the next batch of problems that I'd like to point out are really just a bunch of nitpicks. However, they all stem from the character of Aleister Mad-Eye Moody, aka Barty Crouch Jr. Let's start with the problem that was actually borrowed from the Prisoner of Azkaban. At the end of the movie, Dumbledore sends McGonagall off to tell Azkaban that they're missing a prisoner. But nowhere are we told how Barty escaped from prison. It's the same problem that I talked about in my last review about Sirius. I can only assume that the movie producers saw they got away with it once, so heck, why not try it again? The problem here, though, is that not only are we left in the dark as to how Barty Crouch Jr. comes to be with Voldemort and Wormtail, or why he's wandering around alone at the World Cup, but poor, gorgeous, and glorious David Tennant is reduced to playing a non-substantive, one-sided character. In the book, we're told that not only did Barty Crouch Sr. send his son off to Azkaban, but that Barty Jr. screams and begs him not to do it. Sr. gets Jr. out of Azkaban at the behest of his mother, who switches places with him. Then Jr. spends several years under Sr.'s control, only breaking free with Voldemort's help. And then Junior bewitches his father and finally murders him. I mean, wow, this is an intensely complex character. All the more intriguing because we don't actually know if his pleas in court were real or faked. Was he a supporter of Voldemort all along, or did his father's actions drive him to embrace the title of Death Eater with such fervor? In the movie, all we know is that Junior probably killed his father and is just a regular baddie. Heck, in the movie, Crouch Sr. is really not even necessary. And because we don't realize the lengths that Barty Crouch Jr. took to ensure his master's return, neither are we so horrified at his revelation. He simply becomes another two-dimensional character that we are to hate simply because he's bad. Because of Junior's testimony in the book, what we now have is a setup for the fight against Voldemort for the Order of the Phoenix. However, in the movie, neither do we get a full explanation from Junior, nor an obstinate Fudge, nor a Dumbledore sending out Snape, Sirius, and Molly Weasley to round up the Order and get them ready for the oncoming battle. All we get in the sense of impending doom is one little line from Hermione. "Everything's going to be different, isn't it?" Well, no duh, sweetheart. All in all, the movie's good, but darn it all if the ending isn't just a huge disappointment, ending on a sickly sweet note instead of one of bone-shaking doom like the book does. Well, that's all I've got for this one, folks. So now it's time for Nitpick Corner, where we pick apart every little misdemeanor the movie has made against the golden standard of the book. Number 1, Mad-Eye Moody's eye. The other was large, round as a coin, and a vivid electric blue. The blue eye was moving ceaselessly, without blinking. That's from the book. Here's what it looks like in the movie, and it only moves somewhat rapidly at the end. Number 2, Hermione Granger. I've mentioned this a few times in previous reviews. Hermione was supposed to be the unattractive, smart girl of the class, and her most notable features were always mentioned as her bushy hair and her overgrown front teeth. Well, they got the hair down right in the first 2 films, but by the time we reached the 3rd film, Hermione's starting to look like the stunning beauty she's described as in the Goblet of Fire. I put this here because the Yule Ball is where we start to see the relationship forming between Ron and Hermione. This is the first time the boys see Hermione as a fledgling woman, and you can argue they do this well enough in the movie, and they do. But the contrast between who she was and who she is becoming is just more pronounced in the books. Number 3, Sirius's letter. Harry just writes the name of someone who's out on the run and still a suspected murderer on the front of the letter. Not smart. Number 4, Fleur Delacour. She is supposed to be part Viola, with shimmering silvery blonde hair. And it's a pity they didn't put the Viola in, as we so rarely in the books get a glimpse of the magical world outside of Britain. Also, Fleur in the movies just turns out to be a fairy princess, in contrast to what Moody says of her. She does nothing, is seen in the 2 tournaments she's shown in as being quite bumbling, and doesn't present the air and grace and strength of the Fleur in the books. Also, where are the Beauxbaton boys that are described coming along in the book? I mean, is this seriously all the magic from Beauxbaton that we are to expect? Number 5, The Maze. The maze changes people, is what Dumbledore says, but honestly, there is nothing in the maze to challenge any of the contestants. No spells, no tricks, no monsters, just a lot of running around with a bewitched crumb on the loose. Lord Voldemort's name. Even his followers are now using it. No Dark Lord, no nothing, no indication that the name actually means something, no presence of fear behind it, which was, in fact, the whole point of Voldemort ditching his Muggle name and choosing Lord Voldemort. And that's all, folks. Join me next time as we continue the Harry Potter series with Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.